Welcome to A Curious Couple, the podcast dedicated to questioning the answers we've all taken for granted. Remember, the quality of the answer is first found in the quality of the question. On today's episode, we are questioning the moon!
That was my joke! You robbed it!
It's highlighted in my color, so I get to read it. The celestial body we have all watched ebb and flow in the night sky our entire lives.
We have. She's up there even now.
She is up there
as we
even
speak.
now. She's never not there.
I love the moon.
I love the moon. I love the moon, guys. So, this episode is all about what we can learn from her. And we're also going to dive into her cycles. Mm-hmm. And we're going to dive into a little bit of the 18th Major Arcana card and tarot, which is also the moon.
All right, we've got two. We need a third somewhere. But not too soon. It's got to come later.
Come later. Surprise you guys.
Yeah, like 2/3 in.
Oh my gosh. So, snuggle up with a warm drink. I got coffee at 11:30 at night. So I can have the energy for this episode. And let's go. Let's talk about the moon. But following up on Mermaids episode last time and the challenge we had there. So
We didn't say hello. I'm Angie and I'm Aaron today.
I'm Angie.
And I'm Aaron.
And this is A Curious Couple.
It was that moon joke. It threw us all off.
The moon joke. It threw us. Guys.
No, we do. We have to follow up on mermaids. We can't dive right into the moon, even though I really want to.
We're 25 episodes in and we forgot our own names.
Yeah, I mean, there's a first for it. It's not that we forgot. I just didn't write it down.
So we forgot.
It's my fault. I will take full ownership.
Okay, good. So... No, I'm just kidding. No, last week we talked about mermaids and all the fun histories there, and the challenge we gave all of you listening.
It was to toss your hair in the pool.
I mean, that was like a mini challenge. The first challenge was to really kind of look in your life and see subconsciously if there is any mermaid symbolism in your life or in dreams or anything like that. And for me, I tried to take on that challenge because mermaids are literally everywhere for me. I have jewelry. I have symbolism. I'm literally looking. We have like a corner in our house that is very nautical.
Look at us. That one wasn't even in the outline.
That wasn't even in the outline. Nautical. So we've got these like brass ship engravings and not lifeboats. That's a song with mermaids in it that I was thinking in my head.
There you go. Freudian slip.
Freudian slip. But I think the biggest thing with mermaids in my life right now is really trying to embrace dark feminine energy, which sounds really scary, but in reality it's just a confidence boost thing. And mermaids really embody all of that energy to like the degree.
I love it because they haven't been subjugated by the patriarchy for millennia.
No, unless it's King Triton.
I mean, he's just a moon.
He's just a moon. Oh man! Speaking of
moons,
the moon.
I am so excited to talk about the moon today. We were literally at the
planetarium.
The Clark Planetarium this afternoon.
We were.
It was fascinating. I absolutely loved it. I don't know. My attitude towards the planetarium has shifted. And I felt the shift while I was there today.
We've just learned so much about the planets as of late. Are we conspiracy theorists now?
There's just a different level to it. Like, did we actually go to the moon? Did we?
Either it is, and...
But then why haven't we gone back? Why did the astronauts never talk about it?
Trauma?
I don't know. It's funny because as I was reading about other moons on other planets that, so Jupiter has a moon called Io. Mm-hmm. And on the planetarium wall, it was like, can humans visit Io? And it said humans would basically receive a lethal dose of radiation within 4 hours of entering the atmosphere because of where it sits in the planet's orbit.
But isn't that why they create spacesuits the way that they do, to get rid of radiation? And
I don't know if spacesuits can block all radiation. There's definitely... I don't know if it's possible, but I'm on a whole different...
I'm not a scientist.
Yeah, maybe we should do the moon landing as an episode, because
Maybe.
I would really like to know if... I believed it my whole life. I always thought people who were like, we didn't go to the moon, were just nutcake conspiracy theorists.
We're nutcakes.
And now that I've learned
Oh,
more
no.
about what the planets actually are and their higher symbolism, I don't know if it's possible. I literally don't know if it's possible.
Know. All I know is I remember learning about the moon landing
From Even Stevens.
We went to the moon. 1969.
Is that the year? I don't even remember.
Not the year before, the year after. All I know is that when I found out about the moon in school, I was low-key disappointed that they didn't find Sailor Moon's castle up there. 1969.
Yes.
I'm so proud of myself.
Well done. Well done. Well, let's talk about our moon, because she's beautiful and she's powerful, and the impact that she has on our lives is fundamental.
But it's huge.
Rudimentary. It is
Huge.
Yeah, foundational.
And I feel like because she's just a moon, people forget to talk about her.
Oh, she's wonderful. So let's talk a little bit about the science and the numbers first. We'll talk about what the moon is. So the moon is Earth's only natural satellite. That's what moons are. They're satellites. It orbits at an average distance of 385,000 kilometers or 238,000 miles.
Numbers.
So, yes, big numbers. It's far away. It's a spherical, rocky body, probably with a small metallic core, is what NASA says. The moon is the brightest object in the sky after the sun, which clearly it is. You can even see the moon like in the middle of the city with all the light pollution.
Okay, that's fair, because I'm like...
From
I
our
thought
vantage
I thought
point,
Venus was the brightest planet.
brightest star, but from our vantage point, the moon is the second brightest celestial
and
body.
it's not a planet, so...
So it does not shine on its own light, but simply reflects the light coming from the sun, hence the phases. So it does not have a light source within it.
No. The sun's powerful, too. We need to talk about the sun another day. So obviously, we know about the moon and how it affects the tides. Like, let's talk another scientific thing here. So the moon's gravitational pull, and to a lesser extent the sun's, are the main drivers of the Earth's tides. And the tides are a result of the gravitational tug from the moon and the sun that the Earth feels. I feel like...
We're just caught in this tug of war.
Just
This gravitational tug of war. And the tides feel it more than anything else. The bodies of water.
Weird.
What?
Weird. It creates a rhythm that has guided humans for thousands of years. It's so funny because we talk about water a lot and how it's such an emotional force. Can you just imagine, like, we're just basically like the little... This is a terrible analogy, but I'm going to make it anyway.
Make it.
It's like the one child in a divorced relationship, and they're just trying to pull the child one way or another. Can you imagine the emotional turmoil?
Yes, I can, because that is something we experience in our own bodies all the time.
Hey!
We have solar and lunar qualities, you know, masculine and feminine, and we're tug of war between them. But the interesting thing that I wanted to talk about is the tidal locking. So what the tidal locking of the moon means is the moon is tidally locked to the Earth, which means that it rotates on its axis at the same speed that it orbits the Earth. So the result of this is that infamous dark side of the moon. We're always seeing the same side of the moon. So as the Earth rotates on its axis, the moon rotates in tandem. So the moon is rotating on an axis, but
Yeah. We're in the same...
we're in sync. And so we're always seeing the one side of the moon. That's why the moon, we don't see
we
the
never
dark
see the
side.
other side.
But the dark side
Wow.
of the moon is a misnomer because it does receive light from the sun.
Well, it's just dark to humans.
We just can't see it.
Yeah. And obviously, we're the most important things in this universe.
Right?
So...
So when there's a new moon and we have the shadowed side, the dark side of the moon, quote unquote dark side, is getting the full blast of the sun.
That's wild.
Right?
I didn't realize that we were on the same...
Yeah, and because of this tidal lock, the moon actually creates climate stability. So the moon makes Earth a more livable planet by moderating our home planet's wobble on its axis. That gravitational pull from the moon helps stabilize the Earth, and so it's not jiggly shaky as much.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just thinking, like, if the moon blew up.
Yes. So yeah, our wobble, because you know that the Earth's axis has a wobble, right? That we're not that it's
a good word.
It is. It's a wobble. I feel like scientists use it because they don't want to be like too terrifying. It's like it's a natural thing.
It's a natural
thing.
thing.
No one freak out.
It's just a wobble.
Just a wobble, like a wobbly chair.
Like when you take the kid to get a shot, it's just gonna be like it's just a little poke, just a little prick. It's fine.
Yeah, but because of this stabilization that the moon gives the Earth, it's what's like makes our seasons more predictable.
Yeah.
Without the moon, we would probably go from summer to winter. Hello, Persephone.
Hello, Persephone.
And Ishtar. And
weird. Oh my gosh, that's so wild. Well, we know how much the moon affects our bodies and our psyche and such. It also affects life cycles of many other organisms, obviously. So some animals and their reproduction cycles, they coincide with specific lunar cycles.
yeah.
Certain species of crabs, worm, and fish can sense the moonlight from particular phases of the moon, and then they use this to trigger the start of the species.
Yeah, and they'll use it for navigation. And I think, I mean, I don't experience this because I am a man, but the menstrual cycle too, and the way that it affects women. I've seen that the root of menstrual is actual moonstral cycle.
Yep.
The fact that you have 13, but there's only 12 months, and we have 13 full moons.
Well, and how many days does it take for the moon to cycle?
28.
28. Weird. Wait a minute. Isn't the moon representational of feminine energy?
And fertility.
Yes.
Strange how these things coincide, right?
Everything,
the parallels.
It all makes sense. All the pieces are coming together.
Oh, man. So scientists believe that the moon, I love this. I'm actually fascinated by this.
Okay.
Because scientists have been looking at it and be like, where did the moon come from? How did it get here?
Well, we needed it, obviously.
Exactly. So scientists have come up with this theory called the Great Impact Theory or the Ejected Ring Theory. And so according to this theory, about 4.5 billion years ago, a Mars-sized planet named Theia collided with a larger proto-Earth.
A proto-Earth?
Yeah, so a proto-Earth is like a pre-habitated Earth. So even before dinosaurs, before life, as the Earth was forming, before anything existed, life form on this Earth is what they call the proto-Earth. So basically the Earth was struck by this giant planet, caused a huge separation and all this debris, and it collected in the atmosphere and just slowly gathered and created the moon. And so the moon literally comes from our planet. Like the moon itself, they've done tests on the rocks and they find that it's very similar in makeup to rocks found here on Earth. And so they theorize that the moon actually came from this planet. We are divinely connected to the moon. And with all the benefits and blessings that the moon gives us, I mean, you ask what the world would be like without the moon.
No, without the moon, things would be extremely different.
Yes.
The length of the day would be completely different. This one blows my mind. So the Earth would move faster and the days would be shorter.
Yep.
So this would mean that the moon's gravitational pull slows down the Earth's rotation, right?
Uh-huh.
So if there was no moon, our days would last 6 to 12 hours rather than 24 hours. So I would get nothing done. Ever.
Right? We would lose half the day.
We lose half the day.
Best case scenario.
If you don't sleep, then... And then the tides. Massive. Where we live currently, we live in a desert. So we don't really experience the tides and how much it affects.
On a day-to-day basis.
On a day-to-day basis. But those who do live close to the water, I'm thinking of my friends in California. That does make a massive change. And people whose homes are very close to the beach,
Yeah.
massive change. Because the moon and the sun together cause the tides. We already talked about that. But without the moon, we'd still have the tides, and they wouldn't be as strong. But scientists suggest that without the moon, the tides would be only a third of the size they are now.
So completely just scaled back.
Completely scaled back.
Which makes me think, because in the tarot, whenever we talk about water, stagnant water, no good.
No good.
You need the water to flow and to move. Like you that's the first thing I was taught in Boy Scouts. You drink from a stream, not a puddle. You know what I
Boy
mean?
Scout.
Stagnant water is no good.
No, it isn't. I'm just thinking of... We always talk about how, like, our continent is getting smaller because the ocean's getting bigger. I feel like, would that make just us have more land if it was just... I mean, not that we'd survive without the moon anyway.
I
but,
mean,
you know,
yeah.
more real estate by the beach.
That's okay.
No, it also... We talked about the moon stabilizing the Earth's tilt earlier, which influences our seasons, right? Mm-hmm. So without the moon to regulate the Earth's axial tilt, the seasons would be thrown in complete chaos. I feel like it would just be kind of a crapshoot of what would happen. So I would be miserable because for me, I despise the winter. So if I was enjoying my summer and then I wake up the next day and there's just snow everywhere,
Yeah.
it would not be good for my mental health. I need the moon for my mental health.
One of the episodes we're preparing for is the story of Orpheus and Eurydice.
Yes.
And so we've been listening to the Broadway show Hadestown. I feel like without the moon, it would basically be Hadestown.
Yeah.
Summer to winter, summer to winter, summer to winter.
Which then you can't grow anything.
Yeah, there'd be no harvest.
There's no harvest.
There'd be no spring. There'd be no rebirth.
No, it would just be...
Blazing hot or freezing cold. It makes me think of a desert, you know, the way they talk about the Sahara Desert, because it's scorching in the day and then the sun goes down and everyone's frozen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Aye.
Oh, yeah. The other thing that the moon actually helped facilitate too is the evolution of life itself, right? So 4 billion years ago, when the moon formed and life began, the moon orbited a much closer to us than it does now, which has caused massive tides to ebb and flow every few hours. And these tides caused dramatic fluctuations in salinity around coastlines, which could have driven the evolution of early DNA, like biomolecules. So without the moon, life may not have even formed on this planet. Because again, it would just be, well, it would be a very different state of life.
I just realized, so let's say that we didn't have the moon. Our days are only 6 to 12 hour days. Mm-hmm. Would we just be, I mean, the sun would still go dark, right?
But I feel like we'd hide from it. We would burrow into the ground and be mole people. Because
mole
it would be
people.
so extreme on either ends of the spectrum. We'd be like, screw this.
So for 3 hours of the day, we're up on...
Yeah, we'd be bunker people. Or like, I think of Dune.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Theoretically possible that some life could form on the Earth without the moon. But it's likely that it would not be anything that we would ever imagine or anything that we have now.
Or anything that we could even, comprehend. Or
Yeah.
It would be completely different than our life.
Yeah.
So without the moon, we are eternally grateful for her presence.
We love you.
Is what we're trying to say here. Now, the ancients in antiquity, they knew the important nature of the moon as well. Mm-hmm. And I've been really looking at the gods of the ancient world. I'm fascinated by it, but they all worshipped the moon. Mm-hmm. The moon was a representation of the divine feminine.
Yeah.
As we were mentioning before, just the way that she rules the harvest and fertility and yes, all these things. One of the most prominent that I want to talk about is the cult of Isis. Isis
Those are two trigger words.
And it makes me think like maybe that became a trigger word because of how powerful this goddess was. Because the cult of Isis means the mystical studies or the higher esoteric studies of this Egyptian goddess. Isis was the wife and sister of the Egyptian god Osiris. She played a fundamental role in their whole pantheon. So in the cult of Isis, the moon holds significant esoteric meaning. So Isis, a major goddess in the Egyptian religion, was associated with the moon and was believed to have control over the tides and the cycles of the moon, the cycle of life and death, of birth and rebirth, fertility. She is a boss. Go look up this goddess because Cleopatra claimed to be Isis in flesh.
Oh, in flesh.
That's really how she ruled with so much authority for so long. Cleopatra's she's fetching awesome too. So Isis was first mentioned in the Old Kingdom. So ancient Egypt, before Egypt was even unified as one grand Egypt, it was split into two. There's like an Old Kingdom and the New Kingdom.
Okay.
So before Egypt was even unified, Isis is around as the moon goddess. And she was one of the main characters of the Osiris myth, which she resurrects her slain brother / husband, the divine king Osiris, and produces and protects her heir, Horus. There's a trinity for you: Isis, Osiris, and Horus. You know, the divine masculine, divine feminine, and the sun. And their son. So she was believed to be the mother of Horus, who was the god of the sky. Her role as a mother figure was highly valued in ancient Egypt society. She was crucial.
Yeah, I feel like so many queens and goddesses were just revered in ancient times.
And so many of them ruled the moon.
So many of them.
Like, I was reading about Ishtar tonight.
Yeah.
She was a goddess of the moon, a Syrian goddess of the moon. And as I was reading her story, the parallels between her and Demeter and her and Persephone, they're all very the moon has always been represented by a feminine energy, always, and the sun is represented by a masculine.
Absolutely. So the moon in this context can be seen as a symbol of Isis's nurturing and protective qualities. That's the symbol of the moon, right? As the moon influences the tides and the cycles of life, so does Isis influence the cycle of life, death, and rebirth in a spiritual term.
Exactly. And the thing is in these, and the reason I call it a cult is because it is a school of higher mysteries, is what that word initially meant. And so she had a religious initiation rite that was performed in her name, and it was also in the Greco-Roman world. It really moved into Greece, and then was assimilated. Which it probably came from Atlantis to get to Egypt.
We're kind of nutty this episode.
I love the moon.
Welcome.
Anyways, so. Yeah, so it's believed that she had this rite, this initiation. The rites may have also been taught to guarantee that the initiate's soul, with the goddess's help, would continue after death into a blissful afterlife. It's interesting, the more that you look at these schools of thought, the feminine figure is always the one who helps resurrect the slain innocent, the slain sun god, the slain Christ, the slain whatever.
But it's also, that's like the nurturing role of feminine energy.
Yeah. And in these mysteries is what they taught how this was done, how she did it.
I mean, if you think of the Panic at the Disco song, When the Day Met the Night, beautiful song. First off, it's very Beatles-esque, I think. That is the whole basis of this song. It's just the sun being able to fall in love with the moon in times of trouble. And it's just lovely. Yeah.
And that's really what a lot of these ancient schools tried to teach, is that balance between the masculine and the feminine, to take the two energies and find unity or harmony in them.
Because that's the sunset. Perfect balance and beauty and color and life.
It makes me think of Lady Hawk.
of Lady Hawk.
Yeah, I loved that movie when I was a kid. I was
know what that
introduced
is.
to it very young.
What's Lady Hawk?
With Matthew Broderick? Maybe.
I
His
know-
name's Mouse.
I
You've
know
never seen Lady
what's
Hawk?
Lady Hawk?
Angela, we're going to watch
Whoa.
Lady Hawk.
Oh my gosh.
You
okay.
would love it.
I'm sure I would. I love Matthew Broderick and I love mice.
So, Lady Hawk is about this girl who's cursed to be a hawk. And
Okay.
and then the man she falls in love with is cursed to be a wolf.
Okay, so Hawk and a wolf.
And the only time that they can be together in human form is basically at sunset when both bodies, when the sun is setting at twilight and dusk, basically.
I mean, that happens in a lot of stories. Swan Princess.
It's like that.
Yeah.
You would love it.
I would.
Matthew Broderick's in it. His name's Mouse.
I love that.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the Matthew Broderick video where he plays a character named Tack?
The thief?
It's like the princess and the thief and the cobbler.
That's it, yeah.
The thief and the cobbler was Zigzag.
Aladdin 1.0.
And like the thief that just like walks around stealing stuff in his big brown cloak.
Yeah, no, I've done. It's Aladdin 1.0.
I know it was probably
Yeah.
broader than Aladdin, other than Robin Williams.
Yeah, this is true.
Anyway.
Anyways, so
Astrology. Let's move on.
yeah, let's talk about astrology. So I wanted to talk a little bit about ancient astrology because astrology's kind of shifted
Yeah.
as,
Ancient to modern.
we've evolved and we've advanced.
Weird.
So in ancient Babylonian and Mesopotamian astrology, the moon was one of the chief means for ascertaining the will and the intention of the gods. The moon was considered the celestial partner to the sun, embodying our spiritual light and consciousness. It was associated with fate, fortune, flux, change, nurture, the body, and the material environment we engage with. The moon's phases and its journey through the zodiac in a month, because it travels through the whole zodiac each month. Our word month actually comes from moon, month. Were closely observed by the ancient astrologers.
It makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Monday. Moon day.
Words are spells, people. They have meaning.
So coming back to 2024. So modern astrology, the moon represents our deepest personal needs, our basic needs and reactions, and our unconscious. It's associated with mother and feminine energy. I think that's just a general consensus with the moon. It's also our inner child and our inner mother. In a lot of spiritual senses with feminine energy, you've got, similar to the three fates, you've got three embodying energies. Phases.
Yeah. Or
Phases like the moon. So you've got the maiden, which is kind of like our inner child, younger self before we really... The ingenue. And then we have the mother, which is the nurturer, the wife, the parent. That's
the protector.
The protector. And then you have the crone, which is the hermit, which is wisdom, which is fearless, which is grandiose.
She's a sage.
She's sage. It makes me think of Gandalf from Lord of the Rings, where he doesn't care. He knows what's right, and he isn't scared of anything because he just knows how everything's going to work out because he's lived so long.
Yeah. I love those archetypes. And
They're so great.
They're everywhere.
They are absolutely everywhere.
I was listening to a video by George R.R. Martin, the author of Game of Thrones.
Love it.
He created a world that has 7 gods, if you've seen the series. And there's 3 masculine energies, 3 feminine, and then one called the Stranger, who's androgynous, both genders, non-gendered. And the 3 feminine are the maiden, the mother, and the crone.
Of course. Of course. So the moon shows us what we need in order to feel at home in our world and in our relationships. It depicts our emotional forecast in our horoscope. Moon, sun, and rising. These 3 are really kind of the things that are the biggest poles in your astrology.
Yeah, they're the big daddies.
The big daddies. The moon shows us what we need in order to feel at home in our world and our relationships. It's our emotional state. It's our unconscious state.
Yeah.
Again, the themes are all there, and it all just kind of pools together and makes sense. The moon's significance in astrology stems from the closeness to the earth and the ability to consistently change phases. So transitions from dark moon, new moon, to full moon and back again.
Yep.
Constant change and transformation.
Yep.
So these lunar phases serve as a metaphor of the ebb and flow of life cycles.
I love it.
Because life is ever changing all the time. Each moon cycle has different phases. You've got the new moon, you've got waxing crescent moon, first quarter moon, waxing gibbous moon. I love that word, gibbous. For waxing gibbous moon, full moon. Then we have waning gibbous moon, last quarter moon, waning crescent moon. It's so funny. So I just taught this in homeschool with my girls, and we used Oreos.
It was cute.
It was cute. So we used Oreos, and for each one of the phases of the moon, we cut the frosting in the shape of
had the remaining frosting on the cookie. Yeah, it was great.
It was great. It was great. But
now our 3-year-old confuses new moon and full moon all the time.
Oh my gosh. So do I sometimes. Let's be honest.
That's fine.
Because we've been backwards for the last year. So
we have.
Guys, have you been feeling crazy energy in the world lately? Because everything's been really backwards. The new moon usually, supposedly, should come at the beginning of each month.
Each cycle. Yeah, each sign.
Each sign. It's not been that way for about a year. We've been starting each cycle with a full moon, which is the climax ending energy. Mm-hmm. So we start this new phase with all this crazy energy of okay, I guess here we go.
Here goes Gemini. Everybody in.
Everybody, let's go. Uh-huh. When you start with a new moon, you can build up to that energy. Mm-hmm. So luckily, guys,
we've reset.
Yeah,
this last month we had 2 full moons in Capricorn.
Right.
And thankfully that's reset us back to,
right.
New moon, full moon cycle.
How many life-changing, world-shattering events have happened in the last...
Right.
I just want to pay my gas bill. That's what I'm...
I can't. It's so funny because all the astrologers that I follow, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but Biden dropped out of the race on the full moon on the 21st.
Dude.
And the astrology community exploded. Overnight. They were like, I knew it. I called it. Look at this.
Look at his birth chart. Look at this.
It is impactful. It does influence us.
It does influence us, even on a subconscious. So diving in a little bit deeper on each of the phases. So with the new moon, that marks the beginning of the lunar cycle. Mm-hmm. It's the time to set any intentions or a goal that you want to achieve for this next cycle ahead. It's, again, new energy.
Yeah.
Beginnings. The Fool.
And then as it builds to the full moon, we're just building up those goals. We're getting the momentum going. We're climbing up to that climax.
Exactly. Good word. Because the full moon, when you get to that, it's the time of fulfillment, realization, and completion. It's the time to celebrate the progress, reflect on how far you've come, and release what no longer serves you. Because you've just taken this whole cycle to figure out how to get to these goals. And then it's just such a beautiful... It gives me the feeling of how it feels when you try and set New Year's goals. Where I'm going to do all these amazing things.
Right.
But it brings it on a much bite-sized scale, and it seems so much more achievable.
Yeah, because how many people give up on their New Year's resolution? What is the It's 20 days in and everybody's quit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so follow the moon cycle. You're going to be a lot more productive.
Exactly.
One of the other fascinating things that the moon gives us in our astrology and in your horoscope are the nodes. So in your birth chart...
I have nodes.
When we first got married, I think we watched Pitch Perfect nightly. It's like, you want to watch Pitch Perfect and make out?
Because that's what you do when you're first married.
On our love seat because we couldn't afford a couch. Anyhow,
sorry.
So in astrology we have nodes. We have our north node and our south node, and these nodes are not actual celestial bodies. What they are is the path of the moon where it intersects the path of the ecliptic. So if you remember from our astrology episode, the ecliptic is that ring of the zodiac that goes over the planet, and the moon intersects it because it's not running with the zodiac. And so at its highest point is the north node, and as its lowest point is the south node. These nodes are really powerful, and if you are someone who subscribes to the idea of reincarnation, the south node actually tells you your past life karma that you are incarnating with. And so you will see like the south node will show you your shortcomings or where you can get stuck, or your more natural inclinations, like your weaknesses. And your north node will point you to its sister sign in the direction of, okay, here's the energy that I need to learn. Here's the direction I need to push for in order to find success, to grow, to evolve. And so, yeah, these nodes are really powerful in our state. I love looking at the nodes.
So we touched a little bit on science and astrology, all the fun things.
Let's get into the cards.
Let's get into the cards.
This is Angie's house.
Let's get into the cards. So the Moon Tarot card. This card is going to have so many similar themes to all the other things that we've been talking about within the moon. But with tarot, everything is a much more personal level. So the moon is the card of duality and emotional turmoil. It's got two foreboding towers out in the distance, two howling dogs, and one dog appears to be a domesticated, calmer, while the other one is a wild wolf. And they represent the dual aspects of internal conflict. The sun above appears to gaze on the scene below.
The moon above, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
But it is a moon that's like transitioning into a sun.
Exactly, because the moon cannot be lit up without the sun. Mm-hmm. So another symbol of duality, if you're looking at the card. It's the perspective of daylight, but blind under the moonlight. Then it's so funny. People get really caught up. There's a little crawfish, that like little lobster looking thing that's coming out of the water, and it's struggling between the water and the land. And that's usually an indication that something important is coming to the surface, or that something you're working towards is almost at the end of that battle. So, and this crawfish stands for the fearful self, because it's a sea creature going onto land.
Like our primitive intelligence, even, or our primitive consciousness.
Exactly. But you can't advance and move forward and become more until you leave your comfort zone. In the major arcana sequence, because remember, all of these cards have different numbers, the moon rises after card number 17, which is the star card, and before 19, which is the sun card, the progression of brightness. So with the star, we've realized our guidance, the path we need to follow, the dreams that we're trying to achieve. And then the moon that comes after that, which shows the hidden impact of the situation, the good and the bad. It's kind of that pros and con list to what the path and dreams are. And then the sun is the resolution. It's the completion. It's the light before the dark. It's interesting in tarot as well, when you've got these three cards. Most people, when they read tarot, they do a 3-card pull. And it's usually within those same themes. Usually when you draw that first card, it is, okay, here's what you're feeling right now. Here is the path that you want to go on, the new beginning you want to start, what's really on the forefront of your mind. Then that second card will usually indicate, okay, that's great, but here's A, B, and C that you might not be thinking about within that first path. And then that third card is, here's some advice to get to where you want to go, or here is how this will play out if this is the path that you're looking towards. So it's really interesting to see that, even with just these celestial beings.
Yeah. And they evolve into each other.
They do.
Or the star becomes the moon, and the moon becomes the sun.
It's interesting also, the moon is card 18, right?
Yes.
And that adds up to the number 9.
In numerology. Yeah.
And that card number is the Hermit, which we talked about before.
Yeah.
And the Hermit is also that card of subconscious, of inner thinking, of duality, of meditation and understanding. I love that there's so many things that just kind of connect and just make so much sense.
There's so many parallels in these systems, and they're all just trying to teach us, and it's really, what are we going to listen to?
It's tools to help you out.
Exactly. So in a reading, if you pull the moon card in an upright position, the moon's traditional meaning is really a crisis of faith. and or a period of emotional vulnerability.
You're the crawfish.
You're uncomfortable. You're not sure if you're going to step onto the land or stay in your comfort zone and go back into the water. But the crawfish won't evolve in its evolutionary chain if it stays in the water. And so it reveals misgivings about a situation, as you cannot be sure if what you are seeing is the truth. So under the light of the moon, is what you are seeing an illusion? Is what it's asking us. Like, moonlight isn't as bright as sunlight.
Right.
And so it can be saying, that is a lofty dream. It's a big dream, but is that realistic? Or does the moon bring to light the essence of a problem that needs attention? So this may be a time of deep emotional conflict, and the struggle is private rather than shared.
Yeah.
The moon teaches us that if you do have a decision to make and you need to make that choice wisely, that you really must rely on your senses rather than your logic.
Intuition, my friends.
Your intuition, your feminine energy. Take note of that intuitive messages, and they come in the form of dreams and feelings. So acknowledge them as valid sources of information that will lead you in the right direction. The moon can show that you are being asked to take a risk. Get out of that comfort zone, to broaden your life experience. The prospect may make you uncomfortable, but the moon asks you to dive deep and examine the real cause of unrest.
It's very interesting. Also, we've talked a little bit about the aspects of the dark side of the moon. That's what this card is really revealing. What is it what are you trying to really put under the rug here? Like,
what can't you see even? I feel like a lot of, in my own healing journey and study of this stuff, the subconscious knows, the body keeps the score.
Yeah.
It's in there. And the moon is telling us that, trust your intuition. You don't need to have a logical answer for everything. Feelings and dreams and intuition are just as valid as facts and data. But then again, scrutinize the subconscious. Is it coming from your quote unquote higher self? Or is it an illusion? Is it something that you're feeling because of the trauma? Is it something that you're feeling because of the situations that you have endured in your past?
It's calling you out and asking you to be truthful.
Yeah. And
what are you trying to hide?
And even to examine that truthfulness, because for example, if you want to do something scary, like you want to go get a promotion at work, or for us, I want to go get a lead in a show.
Sure, yeah.
It's going to be scary. I'm going to have to be vulnerable. I'm going to have to put myself out there. But then some days I'm going to feel this fear, this doubt, I'm not good enough. I can't hit that note. I'm going to have these doubts. Now, is that doubt my intuition? Or is that doubt the subconscious conditioning that I've experienced? And so what it's saying is, trust your intuition, but at the same time, and this is what makes it difficult, you got to question it. Is that your intuition, or is it your conditioning that has brought you up? Yeah. So the other things with the moon that I want to get in real quick is the moon in tarot. It has a planetary placement. So the moon card is associated with the mutable water sign of Pisces.
Yes.
And its ruling planet Neptune, a very water planet.
It's a water planet.
Neptune is Poseidon.
Well, you've got the water in the card. You've got the crawfish, mermaids, the moon.
Emotion. Money is also water element.
Money.
Follow the moon for that. Then in the moon, it has a Kabbalistic placement, like all tarot cards do. Kabbalistic tree of life, the moon is associated with the 29th path, which connects Nezak, which is eternity, with Malkuth, which is kingdom. So this path represents the challenge of navigating the illusions and the distractions of the material world while seeking spiritual truth. Yeah, so this is higher level stuff. And the Hebrew letter that's associated with the moon is Kaf. It's symbolized in the back of the head, meaning hidden problems.
Subconscious.
The chakra that the moon is associated with is the third eye, which is your vision.
Your vision, your intuition.
Yep, your higher sight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the moon card in the deck symbolizes illusion, fear, anxiety, subconscious, and intuition. It's a reminder of the dualities of life and the journey through the subconscious.
Yeah. And another thing with tarot, if you draw, this is all if you're drawing the card and it's facing upright. The fun thing about tarot is if you draw it in reverse, it can have a slightly different meaning.
Yeah.
So when you draw the moon in reverse, it may be trying to tell you that you're avoiding these difficult situations. And rather than confronting them, you're kind of cowering. You're not really recognizing what it is. It's a trauma that you keep ignoring again and again and again. It's funny because I've gotten into a bad habit of, if I don't get the question answered the right way, I just keep drawing cards. Because I'm like, okay, I that wasn't a good draw. I'll just draw it again. And I kid you not, almost every time after doing it a few times, I get the moon card in reverse. It's like, come on.
Right?
You know the answer. You know stuff.
You just don't like the answer.
You just don't like the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so... the cards don't lie. So the moon in reverse can also show you that you're going back to old ways and coping with the past. Rather than progressing, transforming, becoming better. You're just doing what you know is going to keep you alive.
I love that, though, because the way the universe teaches us is through repetition. Mm-hmm. And so we are, the adage, people never change.
Yeah.
The only time people change is if they hit rock bottom.
Right. Until they have to change, until they're forced to change. And humans are silly. Why are we we're so silly, guys. Because the old emotional pattern is going to keep coming up until you give it the attention it needs to change it,
Yep. And like the dark side of the moon, all it needs is a little bit of light. The subconscious, when you're doing this healing work, all you need to do is shine some light in that shadow, open that closet, turn the light on, and it dissipates. You don't have to go through this. I remember My Name is Earl, the TV series, when I was a kid, where he's like, I got to clear my karma. And he goes through and like tries to fix every bad thing he ever did.
Oh, no.
It was a comedy. He was like a thief. He had just gotten out of prison. And then he tried to like right all his wrongs.
So many movies I haven't seen this episode.
We don't need to like go through and confront people. We don't need to do those things. You are your own healer. You don't need to go. You just have to turn the light on and see it and understand it and accept it, and then you can move on. That's really all it takes. You don't have to go have a shouting match with somebody who bullied you in second grade to heal from that.
To move forward from that, exactly. I just realized...
You were bullied in second grade? No, I'm just kidding.
No, I was the bully in second grade. I was
the queen.
I was the queen of second grade. I was so smart.
I love it.
No, I had a joke and then I lost my thunder.
That's what you get for stealing my joke at the beginning.
The moon! I'm better at it.
You are. You sound more like a minion.
I am a minion. Oh, no. Can I do a minion?
Oh, man. So I know we've covered a ton here. Let's wrap things up and summarize really quick for everybody. The moon, integral to our life here on this planet.
Absolutely.
Without the moon, the world would be completely different. She was worshipped as a feminine god and the embodiment of the divine feminine throughout history in the form of Persephone, Isis,
Cleopatra,
Ishtar.
Is Beyonce just Cleopatra reincarnated?
I would not be surprised.
I just remember a picture of her with the big moon representation on her costume.
It's funny because a lot of people think that when someone wears horns, they're doing devil worship. Like if someone has like a crown with horns on it, like even Eminem in his latest music video, he throws up some horns with his fingers. It's not a devil thing. It's the moon cycle. Yeah. Because you have the waxing, the waning, and the full in the middle. It's It's
Oh, weird. Things are changing. There's a transformative phase happening here.
yeah.
The moon governs our emotions, subconscious mind, our feminine aspects. Her phases are meant to help us navigate and really kind of go through the phases of our own lives. She's the divine law of rhythm. That's so pretty to me. The divine law of rhythm. I just hear the ocean ebb and flow.
She is the divine law of rhythm. It's the seasons. It's the law of the harvest. We should get into the 12 divine laws. The divine law of rhythm is one of those, but it is that idea that there is a time and a place and a season of growth and a season of death and a season of expansion and a season,
Everything has its season.
Ebbs and flows. So
we're in a season of chaos.
We are in a season of chaos.
And then in tarot, the moon tells us to follow our intuition, to be brave and find balance between reality and illusion. Embrace the fears and dark sides of our subconscious. And it teaches us to make the journey to help us awaken to new levels of consciousness, to make it from that star, moon to sun.
Yeah, from the crawfish to evolve into a higher being.
Woohoo!
Okay. So this week's challenge is really to pay attention to the moon. If this is all new to you, if you're not looking at any of this stuff and you're just like, what is this episode? And you clicked on it today, really just start paying attention to the moon. Look for the moon every night. Go out, see where it is, see what phase it's in, see if you can feel this energy. Maybe even talk to a hospital worker and be like, is it true that you have more incidents on full moons?
Right? Are more babies born more on full moons than any other time?
Yeah, maybe do that. But if you want a deeper level challenge...
Ooh, double challenge.
Double challenge, because I'm going to be doing the deeper level, because I already look at the moon every night.
Yeah.
So the moon... governing our subconscious can actually assist you in dream work. So if you are trying to lucid dream or astral project, the moon, when it is full, has much more power and much more energy. And so it can help you with these ideas if this is something you want to do. I'm really trying to work at these. So that's the challenge I'm giving myself, which I will return and report on next week.
I just realized we missed so many moonisms. We haven't talked anything about waterbenders and how much more powerful their waterbending is on the full moon.
Exactly.
And we didn't even talk about be a man, must be swift as the coursing river, mysterious as the dark side of the moon.
I mean...
there's so many moonisms that
there
we
is.
missed.
We mentioned Sailor Moon for a minute.
I know.
We did.
Her.
She's fine.
She's great.
The moon is divine.
The moon is
She
divine.
is the divine feminine.
She is.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Thank you guys. Thanks for being with us and for this episode of A Curious Couple. We hope we could offer more insight to this beautiful celestial goddess that she is. We hope it's encouraged you just to ask new questions and explore some new things in your life. Learning is not the death of questioning, only the deepening of it. Remember, the quality of the answer is found within the quality of the question.
It's so true. The more we've learned, I feel like the deeper our questions have become.
Yeah.
And that's really brought out some deeper answers. So if you do have any more questions on anything that we've discussed today, always feel free to reach out.
Yeah.
I love the questions. And I love when, I receive questions from other people, because it usually takes me in a direction that I was not planning.
Right?
But for the betterment of everything.
Well, that's the thing. Like, we're only two brains here. There's so many more things to learn and so much we want to continue learning. But we can't wait to see you guys next week.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us.
Until next time.
Stay saucy.
Stay curious.
Love you so much. Bye.
I have notes.